the household. So the idea that we're holding down a full-time job and we're still maintaining the house is a form of oppression, actually, that we as women we felt we're fighting against. So
I'm
there is something about that balance. How do we get that balance?
Yeah, and I would like to add too is that roles were very defined for men and women, particularly in our parents' generation. And so, to HPQ's point, as a woman, you were groomed as a young lady that you would find a husband because women didn't have value, right? Women couldn't vote, women couldn't get loans, women
couldn't get a
didn't
mortgage.
couldn't get loans, couldn't get, women were not independent without
A
having a
man.
husband. And so with that kind of a framework, that's what we all aspire to. I mean, if you were 30 and not married, you were considered a spinster. What's wrong with you? Oh dear, nobody wants her. Oh, she's going to be a spinster. Shame on you, shame on you, right? And so the aspiration to have value. And I remember going to university and being told that many women went to university to get their MRS. Forget the BA, forget the masters. They were going to get their misses. They were there to find a husband, right? So, and to your point, Lady B, miscellaneous, I'm sorry, miscellaneous, that we have now changed. We're women, we are working, we're independent, we have a different sense of value to who we are. And so the tolerance to stay in a bad marriage is we're given more opportunity to say, I will not tolerate that. I will not tolerate that. Whereas I think my mother's generation and earlier generations, they
Had
didn't have
to.
those choices.
Yeah, they had to. They absolutely had to. And my mum tried to instill those values in me in terms of you need to grow up, get a man, get married, and have kids. And I was quite rebellious. I remember growing up and her thinking, my sister and I had to wash up the dishes, iron the clothes, make my dad's sandwiches, cook the food, and the boys just had to wipe down the skirting boards and hoover. That's all they did. And I remember saying to my mum, so why do they have to do so little and we do so much? Though that's what boys do. And as I grew older and I started to match what my mum did in terms of looking after a man, and then when I realised it was getting me nowhere in terms of domestic violence or lack of respect, and I'm thinking, why am I giving myself all to just be this woman? It's like being on mum's net. You need to get your almost like your card to say I'm a woman. I look after my man, I wash his clothes and I cook for him every night, so therefore I'm wife material. Well, stuff that. I am wife material. Just because I don't cook every day and wash your clothes, that doesn't mean to say that I'm not. It just means I'm making my stand as a woman and saying that I need to be respected and I need to be looked after and bought some food and the house clean up when I come in from work as well. So it's not like I'm sitting with my feet up waiting for a man to come and do this. If we're in a unison together, it has to be unified. And we have to have those respective values spoken about and discussed and agreed rather than assumed values. And that's my problem, is assumed values.
Do you think that the male attitude has progressed alongside?
So that's a good question. And this is probably the point where I'm going to bring in my little guest. He's been sitting in the background listening, and I've watched him. He's been very, very attentive and listening here. So let me welcome my guest here, because we need to kind of hear it from a male perspective. This is Keith, aka DJ Smiley. You've been listening to this, haven't you, sir?
I have indeed. Oh my
welcome. Lord. And let me introduce you. You're with a panel of women now, and you're on your lonesome Jonesome here. You are on your own, right. And hopefully we've got a few guys out there that are going to be advocating for you. But obviously I gave you a big introduction there and spoke about the years of longevity within marriage and the role of women within marriage as well. And I'd like to hear your perspective on this. Sharky's saying, poor Keith. But before you do, before you do that, Remix AK put in the chat, it's possible that the routine that you built over time will take a toll on you when there's a drastic change to the setting. As you say, there's no rules to marriage, but the bond, but the change definitely takes a toll on your mental health. He is supporting us. I know, don't worry. I think it's a he, so I'm apologising if it's not. But welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
To Ladies Night, and thank you for coming on at such short notice. I contacted you yesterday, but I thought it was really important that you were part of this chat, especially through your marriage and sending us the secrets of success or non-success, as he would say. And I think it was, who asked the last question? Was it Miscellaneous or Carolyn?
Yes, I asked whether or not the male attitudes have changed alongside the female attitudes over the years, recognizing that women are now in the workplace, they hold down a full-time job, and, you know, and whether they see that there should be a sharing of those home responsibilities.
It's all on you, Keith. It's all on you.
Yep, welcome, and thank you very much for having me on the platform today. I know it's Ladies Night, but yes, I'm going to share as much as I can, and we can have a great debate, which I'm sure you ladies are going to do without me anyway. But let's go. I certainly feel that the attitudes of the male and female has changed over the years. As you were saying, that when your parents were growing up, you can see in them what they had to go through, and they probably instilled that values from their parents. So it seems like it's instilled in all of us to see and follow what our families were doing. For me now, born in 63, in the 60s, I can see over the years, the 70s, the 80s and the 90s, 100% the values have changed, because I got married in the 90s, early 1990 I got married. So I know for sure that the male values has changed, and the women's as well. And I think you'll find that some men, I'm not saying all, have got now the understanding that yes, there needs to be a joint role in being married and what the lady goes through throughout her time with you and in a household, and bringing in the finances. So a woman going to work, or my wife working, I in my days, I don't even think I would have batted an eyelid. I think it should have been a go-to place to go for ladies to go to work in the first place anyway. I didn't see, when I was growing up, my parents never said to me, oh, it's for a woman's job to stay at home and cook and iron and wash and do everything. So when you come out, as you were saying previously...
Don't get me wrong, I could be a kept woman, you know. I've just never been offered that. If someone said stay at home, cook, clean and iron, and I'll give you all the money and look after the kids, I'll be there. I would, but I never had that option.
Sorry. No, that's all right. I just think that, some men probably still stuck in the 70s and listening to what their parents are saying, but nowadays it's down for an equal opportunities, whatever you want to class it as. You've got to have some sort of dialogue with your partner to know that, I'm here to share, I'm here to help, I'm here to do whatever. So I definitely think that roles have changed, and males, I'm just saying because my friends are similar, has changed, the attitude has changed. You can ask any other questions, or hopefully I'm on the right track of what you might have wanted to hear.
So how are your roles at home, and do you think that they have evolved over the course of your marriage? Did you come in with expected perceptions of what a marriage should be like? My wife is going to cook my dinner and she's going to wash my clothes and I just need to go out to work and be the breadwinner. Was that your perception, or did that evolve over the years?
I think it evolved over the years. My perceptions was never... The perceptions, views was never tailored that way. I think it's probably because my mum divorced my dad. My gosh, I was still in primary school, secondary school. I might have been about 12 when they divorced. So my mum brought four of us up on her own. So my values and what she instilled in us would never have gone down that road. But over the years, yes, I think when you find your girlfriend and then you get a baby and then you start getting married and you start buying a flat, you realize that it's impossible for one person to do all of that. So as you say, you involve and you start taking interest and doing more and more and more. But no, me personally, I would never have gone down the road to say, no, my feet is staying planted on that what they call them buffets in them days. It will never be up there. It would have been an equal thing from the start.
And before I let the ladies take over and ask you some questions, so we've talked about the sanctity of marriage and the reasons to why people get married. And I'm going to ask you a bit of a personal question here. Why did you get married? I mean, there's obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to get married?
You can ask away. I got married when I was 25, I think it was. I think I was 25. And for me, I found the lady that I loved. I had a son by then. So I just thought, we both got similar likes, as in we both like steel pans. So I met my wife in the steel pan before she became my wife. We were playing in Labrador Grove in a steel pan. Yeah. She was
bands?
very fast. It was Glissando's.
Okay.
Glissando's from Labrador Grove. That's where I was born and raised and married.
So
my wife was in Glissando. She was a tenor player, and I joined to play cello and then quads. That's a 4-pan piece. And then within that community, you're like family. So you get to know people. So I already knew my wife before.
I love that.
And I knew, So in that respect, I got married because, I fell in love with her at that time. So, I still am.
And you felt at the time that that's obviously who you wanted to spend the rest of your life with. And here you are today, 36 years later.
Yeah.
You're still with your wife,
still there. Still together. Got four great, beautiful kids. Got one grandson and one on the way. And they've all done me proud. And I've instilled what values should be going on. And I know for sure that they will do the exact same. And I wouldn't expect anything less, to value the woman, value your wife's opinions, and do things 50-50 if possible, or you do 60-40, whichever way, but it's got to be an equal balance.
Okay, and so my last question before I throw it out to the ladies, I'm sorry I'm dominating your time here, but have you had any things that have really tested your marriage to the hilt, without revealing what it is? And I don't want you to kind of reveal your personal circumstances, but have you had things that have really tested it, and what have you done to overcome that?
We've had several instances. The only way that I could have done it is via talking. And I mean, talk and then get it off your chest once and for all. Don't harbour on the case. Discuss it. If you want to throw your toys at the pram that day or that evening, get it off your chest and discuss it. And try not to go to bed with that still harbouring on your heart or your mind. Because with us, our culturally, stress is a killer, and it will eat out your heart. And if you wasn't born that way, and your family and your mother and your father brought you up in a different way, it will totally change you. It will turn you, and it's for you to then find somebody else. And sometimes, male or female, could take that out on the next partner. You could take those views with you, and it's carrying and harbouring, and you won't find that relationship, or you won't get that loving relationship with another partner. So I personally, the best way is to talk, swear, whatever you have to do, throw 2 dishes out the window, whatever. But the main thing is to get it off your chest early. If it doesn't work, then I think it would be the best thing is to find your soul and think hardly and just walk away. Just leave it.
Easier said than done. But I'm
Very
now going to
true.
pass it over to our ladies, because I can see Lady Toronto. I love that. I so love that.
Yeah.
Is smiling away and itching away there. I'm sure we've got lots of questions, and also over on the Mixcloud as well. So I'm gonna throw it over to you guys. Lady Toronto.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see
very
you.
well. You too.
Always a pleasure. And I love you sharing about the longevity of your marriage, and I want to ask or just pose this commentary that also that marriage really does require communication, and uh, and understanding that your views may differ, but maybe you can come to a compromise, or come to a point where we can be respectful of each of the different views. And how do you feel that has influenced the longevity of your own marriage?
That absolutely has. And without it, it would be near enough impossible, because you have to have some sort of communication channel. You've got to be able to listen to what your partner or your wife or boyfriend or girlfriend has to say, and digest that, and then have an answer for them, because it's not worth, and it will never work if you both are trying to talk over each other, or not listening, really listening attentively to what that person is saying. So yeah, over the years, you get to understand, and you become more calmer, because what they're saying, it has merit, and what I say has merit and value. So yeah, it's a two-way thing, and they've got to listen. And yeah, communication to me is one of the top things you should have, is a good communications between the two of you, for it to last and for it to carry on. And each day you're always building new things, and you're finding new things out about your partner that you probably didn't know before, and it's listening, you know. When big people say listen and don't talk, big people talking or something, you need to listen. And even while you're working, and you're in that telephone conversation or with a friend, you're listening. You're always listening. But some people they've got the word before the person's even finished talking. They want to talk over you. So communication, great thing to have, attribute to have.
Can I go?
Yes.
Before I start talking, yes, please do.
Hi, DJ Smiley. Lovely to
Hello.
meet you, and congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
longevity of your marriage. It's not a common thing these days, but they are around, but it's not very common. So kudos to you and to your wife.
Thank you.
The question I wanted to ask, you mentioned earlier that you got married at the age of around 25.
Mm-hmm.
And your wife was the same age, or was she a bit
No,
older or younger?
younger, 4
She
years.
was a bit young, 4 years younger. Okay,
Yeah.
so obviously, when we're in our 20s, we think we know everything, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So over time,
Mm-hmm.
when you look back now, do you feel that at a certain at that point in time, perhaps you were a lot less mature, and perhaps your wife was a lot less mature? And how did that maturity, how those differing maturity levels,
Mm-hmm.
impact on your marriage?
Yeah, great answer. Great question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah, I totally was what can you say, a guy, because I started a sound system in those days, in the late 80s, and then in the 90s. So my wife, girlfriend at the time, was coming into sound system, men out playing out, partying and so on. And yes, that is absolutely something that when I was in my 20s, yeah, I was naive, always out, not thinking. But after I had my son, then I think the reins, it felt, it's like a cloud, and it just come over you, and you think, well, hold on a minute. And now I'm now a parent. I have to change my attitude. Things have to change. And it was difficult because you're not used to it. And there's no rule book for parenting. So you have to learn as you go along. And the two of us never had children before. You've got your parents there to back you and to give you guidance. But it's for us to start learning our own ways and our own ways. And yes, over time, it might take me like 7 years or more. And then when I had my next son, so you're building and building it. So yeah, totally naive, a schoolboy, I can say. I was schoolboy mentality. But yeah, over the years, it definitely changed. And I take my hat off to my wife, because the two of us managed to work it out. And then it started to build and build and build, and what it is today. she's still feisty, but you know, you live with it.
Well, that's women, because
what
we
can
run
you
the
say?
household, so we have to be feisty, right? We have to
You
be.
know
No,
what I mean?
he
Comes
threw
with the
that one in
territory.
there just to wind you up, really. He
I
did.
did, I did.
And I think you wouldn't have it any other way.
I did, because I know it's a serious conversation, but I'm trying to, you know, but and yeah, love it to bits. So yeah, so that's, if you want to ask a supplementary question, go on, and I'll try and answer it if I didn't answer this clear enough.
Yeah, cool.
Well, no. To be honest, I think you've answered all the questions. But you know what? I think you're just what's to say? It's almost like not an easy subject, because you've been through some trials and tribulations. You've been married and everything, but you're almost like a perfect man. It's not fair. We're all sitting there like, Jesus, he's married, he's gone, man. No, God. But, you know, because you've sat there and you said the reasons to why you've got married also, and that you've learned and you've evolved, and you know, you're continually learning. But we can't always say the same for all other men. It's a trial and tribulation to get people to see what they need to do and what need to do. You know, it came to you like a light bulb. Yes, I need to do this. Yes, I'm married. Yes, I need to provide. Yes, I need to be here. But for some people, those statements get convoluted. I think people get confused between I'm a dad to actually I need to be present and be a dad. Yeah. And I realized that with my own son. You know, I had my child very young. I had him at 17 years old. And I was, you know, when he was younger, I had a part-time job. I didn't really work. And then I went to work in the city. And he was then coming on to, I don't know, 10 or 11. So he was down at my mum's all the time. And I took advantage of that. I was like, he's down at my mum's. I'm working in the city. I can go out and party every weekend because my son is at my mum's and everything's okay. You know, he's getting the love from there, and I can do what I want. I can have my teenage years now. And what you don't realise is that children still need your love, time and attention. The same with marriages. Doesn't matter that you go out all the time, you still need to pay that love and attention the same way as you need to do to children. And if you don't nurture that, it's going to fall by the wayside. And you know, you've got to learn these things, and marriage and parenthood is continual learning. I've said it before, you've said it, and everyone else will said it. There's no rule book in how this should be married. It's all about patience and is this the person you really love and want to be with for the rest of your life, and this is what you want to work at, then you work at it and you make it work. For the people that don't make it work, that's a difficult subject to broach. You know, that can apply to all of us here. We haven't had that longevity. We've broken away for various reasons, and for some of them very, very, very good reasons. And it's those reasons that leave a mar on us as well. You haven't gone through the cycle of, you know, you're beating up your woman and left her mash up and broken. So you haven't got to go back and heal those things and regroup as a person. You've been a great person, I suppose, or allegedly, I should say, for the majority
so
of your life.
I'm going to bring her in so you can see her.
Yeah, please. Can we bring her in? I would love to meet her.
She might not like that now.
No, I tell her. Tell her. There's four
minute.
ladies that want to meet her. But anyway,
her name's Gina. All right.
Okay. As you do that, ladies, is there anything else you want to ask? Because I've dominated that conversation just for a bit. And Claire's saying, "Poor Gina." Sharky said, "Listening is hard for some people." Yes.
I just have a comment. This is about a video that I saw on TikTok a few days ago. And it was a man talking. And he said he was talking to a friend of his one day. And the friend said, "My woman must be subservient to me."
Oh, Lord.
And he turned to his friend and he said, "Your woman must be subservient to you. Will you be subservient to the bills?" And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "If you're paying, your woman can be subservient to you. If you're paying all the bills, respecting her and looking after her, of course she'll be subservient to you." And I thought, actually, that is a good point. If it was, you know, a lot of the time, men don't move, don't grow. They don't know the meaning of what they're saying. You're talking about a subservient woman. So what does that mean to you? You know, does it mean a woman that you expect to do everything for you and you don't respect her? You know, is there a reciprocation? You know. That was my comment, really.
And the amount of times I've heard from men, you know, I've had women wash my clothes and cook my food every day, and I look at them and I say, well, you better go back to them then, innit? Because, you know, that's not my job title. I expect to get my dinners cooked and my clothes washed. So, you know, but we have Keith's wife here. She's here. The woman of the hour. Yeah,
Yes.
We are going to spotlight her because, you know, 33 years. She needs to be spotlighted. Have we got, sweetheart, can you tell us your name, first of all? Let's introduce you.
Okay, my name's Gina Simpson.
And we're going to give you a big congrats. We should put a crown on your head and a sash and everything for, you know, seriously. But I met your husband last week on a Zoom chat, Shamps and Giggles, and he was talking about the longevity of marriage and spoke about how long he was married for. And I thought, oh my God, that's amazing, you know, because I haven't achieved that. And he obviously spoke from his perspective, and he's been dealing with us four ladies. And he obviously said, let's bring my wife on. So thank you very much for joining us. But would like to hear it from your perspective also, because we've been speaking about how women have evolved, where we were subservient, you know, looking after the man, cooking dinners, food. How do you view your marriage? What do you guys do? How has this longevity occurred? I'm excited to hear.
Oh wow! I think it's working together. It's about a partnership. We sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Share responsibilities. So it's not always one-sided. Going back. Before we sort of established our own self, Keith used to work quite a lot, and he was working all hours God sends, and so it was just me taking care of the home and the kids. But after a couple of years of marriage, I think we sort of established it's all about working. It's a work in progress, and establishing ourselves as a married couple and where we wanted to be and where we wanted to go. And I think we just grew on what we thought was best. Because my mum and dad, before they passed away, I think they were married about 70 years.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So it's all about, I suppose, seeing my mum and dad grow up. I thought because they had such a loving relationship, and that's what I wanted. So I knew from the beginning when I met somebody, that person I was going to be with the rest of my life.
And you'll fight for that, right?
You did too, Juju.
And you know what I love as well is that obviously you've come on and you've been speaking and times where you've had to refer to your husband, you look at him and be like, yeah, you know, either you're telling him agree this, you know, or there's gonna be trouble later. But I love the way that you've got that kind of silent communication going on there. It is really lovely and blessings to you both. But I don't know if any other ladies here have got any questions, because I feel like I'm dominating this conversation. Lady Toronto.
I don't have any questions. I'm just so, there's a whole idea too about in the Black community about marriage and us and the lack of marriage in the Black community, which is a total trope. But just beautiful to see Black love and Black marriage, and happy for the both of you. You're joyful. You're very joyful, and I think it's beautiful.
I agree. And that's why I got your husband on in the first place. Yes.
Oh, and I think for him, I get inspired by him, and every day I grow to love him more. So I love him more tomorrow than I did today. And he just makes me laugh all the time.
You guys are making me melt. Stop.
I'm very, very passionate about him. So when I talk about him, I do get a little bit choked up because I'm so passionate about him. And I think that's how, because he makes me laugh all the time as well. And I think that's part of it as well, just keeping the spark alive.
Also, what I see between you, just looking at the both of you, I think there's an innate kindness. You're so kind to one another. So I can actually see that. And that's probably another reason why your marriage has stood the test of time, because, you each see each other's problems, and you each sort of like take things. I could just see that. Oh, well done to both of you, honestly.
Thank you.
Been hard work.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Oh gosh.
I know it's hard work.
Yeah, it's
I know
hard.
it's hard work, but
Not
the
easy.
the kindness is there. When you're kind at heart, you'll always worry about how the other person is feeling,
Absolutely.
or how they, and I
Yeah.
can see that. I can see
I
that.
like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
So-
I like that a lot.
So
I like that a
my
lot.
question is, I'm going to take it from another direction,
Okay,
and
okay.
it's great, and it's all love and everything. What happens when you are vexed with each other, like proper vexed with the world? I don't want to
Oh,
see you. I want to
God.
fling you out the house and dash some things at you. How do you separate, deal with it, and regroup?
I think there's a sort of probably about a couple of hours of silence, or we don't talk to each other, literally. And
Just a couple of hours.
just
Yeah.
a couple of hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple of hours, we just don't speak together, and then one of us will start it and say, "Why are you upset with me?" And then we just take it from there, and we just have a full-blown argument or whatever, and then kiss and make up, and it's done.
Oh, can we just take these guys off the screen now? All right, I've had enough now. I'm getting you off. We wanted to hear conflict and fight, and all we hear is just love and just like, oh, we love each other. You know, you are what we aspire
She did try to beat up a
to.
girl after me.
Oh
She
yeah.
did try to beat up a girl.
Good girl. Did you punch her up, man?
Yeah, madness. I mean, fighting, that's absolute madness. That's
Fling
just
two
one-
left hook and tell her where,
That was just
go
silly.
take a run.
Yeah.
No, seriously. Sometimes you have to fight for your man, especially when they're worth fighting for. And seriously, he's worth fighting for. I would take hand, foot, fist, chair, curtain rail, everything, and fight for my man. And some of these things you need to do. I never understood why some women fight for their husbands or men. I'd be like, why she beat him up? Why the other woman? But sometimes it's a lash to the other woman, and at nights it's well, for the man it's like 12 years of a slave. Like the film goes, it's 12 years of a slave if you mess up. I'm telling you.
I can vouch for that. Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on. Is there any other questions from the chat room or from you ladies to this beautiful couple here that we have on tonight? Honestly, you've mesmerized us. You made us feel bad about ourselves. I'm going to go back and think, oh God, can't
I
even
don't
achieve
feel bad.
2 years. Can't
I
achieve
don't
2
feel-
years, let alone 33.
I don't feel bad. It makes me.
I was
going
gonna
to
say-
actually. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. That's
For me,
exactly
it's really
Yes.
great to see.
Yeah.
It's great to know that you guys have achieved this. In fact, I was going to ask, so when are you going to write your book? Because there's a little book in here that needs to be written and shared with the community to say this is the way how it's done. Well done to you both. Well done to you
because
both.
I'll have to talk about my youthful years.
Oh,
No.
But you know what? They are important because it's all about growing up. No one has a perfect relationship. Can no one turn around and say they've had this perfect relationship where they've never said anything wrong, they've never cheated, they've never done this, that, and the other? You have your imperfections throughout your relationship, but it's all about how you deal with it and how you evolve from there.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have, affairs happen. I'm not saying it happened in your marriage, but it does. And sometimes it's a case of you need to look at yourself, look at them, look at other people. And sometimes it's for the best because it makes you think, you know what, I appreciate what I've got because you're dealing with it. But if it goes on and on and on, no, that's not a sanctity of marriage. It's about, I've made a mistake, let's deal with it, let's work through it together to get on in life, you know?
I agree with that, H. Alison, because I think mistakes are one thing, but it's the continuation of it. Yeah, the continuous perpetuation that actually a lot of women, where it comes to cheating partners, actually I suppose vice versa, but a lot of women, that's where the heartbreak comes from. Because they're they're continuously being broken, and so no, it's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable.
Yeah.
So mistakes are fine,
Yeah.
but continuous mistakes are
It's
no
not
longer
a mistake.
mistakes in my view.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And that's where that kindness that's where that kindness comes in, because people can make mistakes, right, and hurt their partner, but if you are a kind person at heart, you will know that the pain that you've caused, you've got to fix it. you know, and you've got to be working not to cause that pain again. That's the kindness, you know. If you're truly a kind person at heart, those are the sort of things that would drive you. People make
Yes.
mistakes, you know, so yeah.
And I wanted to jump in and say too, that's where it also comes with age and maturity, right? Because I know for myself, my marriage broke up because of an affair, but I could not cope with it. I didn't have the tolerance to, and like I said, my ex-husband and I like love my life, and he loves me, and even though he's remarried now, but in that particular moment in our lives, I did not have, I would say, the reflection that I have now to say that I could have gotten on with it and we still would have been married today. At that particular time, I was broken by it, and
Yeah.
I didn't.
And I think it's called it's all about emotional intelligence as well, and growing up and being able to deal with that. And some people can deal with trauma better, more so than others. Some men will have an affair and women will break down and fall down and commit suicide and all sorts of things, and other women will rise up from it, go get another partner, and you wouldn't even see it phase them. So everyone's different in terms of their genetical makeup to how they deal with certain situations. But as I said, you know, you both are testament to marriage longevity, and I don't want to leave it on a sour note on anything about affairs and things like that. I applaud you both, and as I said, I brought your husband on here because, you know, he's amazing. Now I know you're amazing. In fact, you're more amazing, you know. And you're going to be our poster couple, you know, for longevity of marriage. Definitely, you are. You are. So, you know, when is your anniversary, by the way?
Next one is May the 5th on my birthday.
Oh, so you just passed one. That was 33 years of marriage, was it?
Yeah.
33 years of marriage. So you've got your 34th next year. Well, happy anniversary for this year and next year, and may it continue. I aim to bring you on in the next 5 years to see how it's going, to see whether you've got a battered forehead, you know. Thank you so much for your time today. I don't know if you've got any other questions you want to ask us or any information you want to impart on us also. Any lasting words for us?
Wisdom.
Listen,
of wisdom.
You guys, I'm just saying, listen, do what you're doing. I personally say there is someone out there. Just make sure that the person is right, male or female, whichever persuasion you want to be in. It really doesn't matter. Your heart's good. Just continue. Don't let them beat you down or try and take advantage, because all black women, all women are strong women individually, and you'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you very much for coming on with us today. Gina, we threw you into the spotlight there, didn't we? And you coped so well. So thank you. And you look absolutely beautiful. Thank you both. I'm going to come and meet you someday very, very soon.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You
too. I'm going to move you back into the green room here. Thank you. And we are going to continue with us ladies on the show. Let's have a look what we can bring up here. Right. So that was Keith, aka DJ Smiley. He is amazing. And you know what else he does? He does Black Pound Day. So he goes into a venue and he has caterers there and I think a few resellers, and he encourages people to spend your money on our black community. He did one last month. I don't know when the next one's coming up. I'm going to ask him and find out and get him to promote it on GYRadio. But he does so much good stuff, and he is the pillar of society for marriage. But in saying that, and I don't want to shade anything on him, there are some men that don't know about the sanctity of marriage, right, ladies?
Yeah. And I also wanted to say too is that marriage is an institution. The world has changed so much for women, I believe, that we choose whether we also have choice whether we want to get married. Whereas again, there wasn't choice in whether you got married or not. You got married. And if you weren't, you were a spinster. That was it. There was no opportunity to go out, get a career, be your own woman, be a boss babe, all of that stuff. That was the aspiration. Marriage. That was it. There were, and I think that's now women today, contemporary women, have more of a choice, a voice into whether they want to get married or not. It's not the only option for them.
I also think that there's something about changing the way how that institution operates. I mean, just looking at, as you say, DJ Smiley and Gina, they're not the way how their relationship works. It's not necessarily on those traditional bounds that they were. Yeah. So I still think that the institution of marriage just has a 21st century, if you would like, definition, whereby we're looking at it's based on a solid union between two people, and that relationship based on things like, trust, common interest, respect, and so forth. And then what I'm also picking up from DJ Smiley and Gina was the ability to grow and the space to grow. Because that, as we progress through life, we change, we develop, we have new experiences, they impact us differently. And one of the shortcomings, it seems, of the relationships when they break down can be where somebody has changed. They've had some experience in their life and they've changed, they've matured even, but the other person hasn't. Yeah. Not only have they not matured, they've also then not allowing you the space to be the real you and be who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. And hence I asked the DJ Smiley the question about maturity, because I mean, I'm 58 now, and I left my marriage when I was 30 years old, and even then you were talking about choices about choosing careers and things like that. I was bossing it even then, right? Like career-wise. But I was a mother, and I was a wife, and I was expected to be subservient. I was expected to do all that stuff. And, looking back now, after having left that, I tell you, my ex-husband is still where I left him. 28 years ago. He hasn't changed at all. And there are many like that.
And unfortunately, not all can be like Keith or DJ Smiley and be these upstanding men of society that think about their wives and think about their careers and think about children. And I think also, as I said before, a lot of men think that they do their little piece and that's enough to say that they are husbands and fathers and parents. And it's not. Just because you come and pick your child up at a weekend and take him out does not make you a father.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you a father, and it doesn't, or that you come, or you say you're married and, say you're out all the time and you spend one day a week at home with your wife and all the other days you're out, and you take a child out and you buy him a load of toys and disappear again. That's not making you a good father because you provide for your child. It's a lot more than that. Same like motherhood and parenting, it encompasses so much more. And I think people put that on a loose chain and say, because I do this and because I do that, that makes me a good husband or it makes me a good father. And it doesn't. And when other people try and perhaps tell you that or offer advice, it's so difficult to hear because you're at that age where you've got the emotional intelligence to digest it or not. No, there's no one good age where you are able to take information in and churn it out to something favorable to everybody else. It's all a learning curve. And as the couple most importantly said, it's all about listening. Communication is all about talking and receiving information means that you've been actively listening and you're doing something with that information, whether you're saying I choose to ignore this or I'm going to do something with this or not. That's what it is. And we don't do enough of active listening. We take in what we want to hear and churn out what we want to say, and miss the important parts. And I've been guilty of that myself, definitely, as a strong black woman. And I can turn around and say I'm a very strong, independent black woman. There's not much that people can tell me that I can and can't do. Therefore, you have to bring a lot to the table to offer me for me to start changing my way of life or me. Because if you don't, at first, I probably will do to please. And then if I don't see that, then I'm like, I'm going to do as I did until you offer me something different, or offer me to say, you know what, change your life because I'm going to make it a little bit better. And that to me is the massive difference. And that's what we don't do as women. We don't empower ourselves to say, you know what, we're worth this. And if what you're offering is too little, I ain't going to give you any more.
Well, I did that. I did. Because after I left my ex-husband, 2 years after that, I went into a long-term relationship. And granted, we split up and we got back together a few times. But over 27 years, after the lockdown, I just thought, actually, it's not enough for me, what you're doing here. So I've got to go because, you know, I'm a big woman and I know what I want. And I know myself, and I do cooking and cleaning. I mean, that's a doddle, really, in the grand scheme of things. Cooking and cleaning is not enough. So what's the reciprocal, you know, where's the respect? Where's the love?
Exactly. And I don't want it the mainstay of part of my relationship. I hate when people turn around and say, oh, gosh, you can cook, you can look after a man. And I'm like, yeah, I can cook, but should it be kind of like the main function of why you like me because I can cook? Hell, we can go to a restaurant every night.
Yeah.
That's how I'm looking at it. My mum cooked every day for the last 60, 75 years of her life. I'm like, there's restaurants out there, so why can't we go to a restaurant? Why do I have to cook every night to prove myself as a woman? I don't need to prove myself as a woman.
And I think it's also tied to self-esteem and value and women's place in society as well. You know, it's also tied to I am less valuable because I do not have a partner, I do not have a husband, I do not have a man. And so then my self-esteem suffers, not mine though. And and I think that also plays a greater role, that it's been perpetuated that a woman is whole when she has a partner. And that is something that, you know, as we progress, we have to value ourselves and we have to love ourselves, whether we're in a relationship or not. And I wanted to just circle back to something you said, HPQ, about, you know, fathers being, you know, you pick up your kid and you take them out for the day and then you buy them a bag of toys and that's it. My ex-husband is a fabulous father. Our son is 40 this year, so he's...
Oh my God, no way.
My son is grown and sexy.
You don't have a 40-year-old.
And even though we broke up, one of the things that I admired about my ex-husband was he was always actively involved in my son's life. And one of the examples I speak about, I remember my son learning how to skate. And at the age of 38, my ex-husband decided he was going to learn to skate. And he said, this was very profound, he didn't want to watch Matthew skate. He wanted to skate with him. And so, you know, those things of actively being involved. And I think the same thing is with the marriage. You have to be actively involved in the marriage as well, on both sides, to have it to be successful.
Absolutely. You do. And I don't want to make it seem like I am... what's the word for it, rubbishing the states of marriage or relationships, or making it seem like it's all doom and gloom. There really isn't. There isn't. But we have to give it from perspectives from all sides. And DJ Smiley gave it on the perspective of having a successful 33-year marriage. And for some of us, we've had some marriages, we've had some relationships that haven't always worked out. And it's all about gaining knowledge, right? It's all about evolving. It's all about what we are willing to tolerate. We've been through it with our parents, we've been through it with friends, and we've been through it through our own self-relationships. And we're getting to a point where we are starting to think, actually, I need to think more about myself and how I feel in certain scenarios. And all the time I would think about my partners and how they would feel and the reactions on them. And even now, if I'm making a decision for myself, I'm thinking about how's it going to affect them? How are they going to feel? And that's you always thinking about the next person, because that's how we're built. That's how we've been inbred. Think about the children, think about your husband. Don't think about yourself. Think about yourself last. And even when you do want to think about yourself, you feel a little bit guilty. I feel guilty for being selfish. Why is that? Why do we feel guilty for being selfish?
But that's a normal thing about being a parent, being a mother, I think that element of guilt is quite natural, because that's what happens when you're somebody who has a lot of responsibility. I mean, taking it out of the family home.
One second, miscellaneous. Lady B, just put yourself on mute while you're fanning yourself down. I know it's hot. I'm hot here. Just mute yourself. Thank you. Miscellaneous, carry on. Sorry, darling.
No worries. Just taking it outside the family home, I'm thinking about in the workplace, where it is that you also then have a lot of responsibilities. If you've got responsibilities for your team, if you're a manager, etc., etc., you know, there's that element of guilt. I'm going home early and such life. So I think the element of guilt is quite natural. I think that's a natural reaction to having responsibility, and then you just taking that moment out to say, you know, I'm going to do this little thing for myself, because that you would feel guilty. But what you would also have done as a mother anyway, you would have made sure that the children was all right before you went and did whatever you were going to do. And I also don't think it's necessarily something that's exclusive to women. It's majority more women. But I do think that there are some men who also think like that. You know, there are some men who will consider their decisions and how they are also going to impact upon their family, etc., before they take those decisions. There may be few and far between, and it may not be at the forefront of their minds, but I do believe that there are men that think like that, because we have in DJ Smiley, and I am sure there are others, examples of successful marriages within our community. Many of us have taken on, seen what our parents went through, seen the importance of that connection, the importance of actually being a child born within a marriage, because in society, that's a thing. Yeah. If you're a child that's born outside of wedlock, that was another thing. Yeah. So a lot of us have taken on that attitude and would want to continue that in the generations to come. Because even though I've not been married, I am most definitely encouraging my children that actually marriage is a good thing. If you find the right person, if the two of you have an agreed approach. And I also think that there's a great importance of that spiritual connection. If that spiritual connection doesn't exist, then it's much easier for people for fighting and arguing to break up the relationship. But when you've got that spiritual connection, there's a place in which it is that you can individually and collectively go to actually try and resolve some of the issues. So the sanctity of marriage for me is still important, and it's something that I would encourage future generations to do.
Thank you very much for that. Now, I'm not saying that we should exclude the sanctity of marriage, or I don't believe in it. I've just never had that longevity, and I would not like to be in this period, in this age group that they're dealing with right now, with all of the social media, the efforts to look good. And I was told by someone quite recently on social media, I remember them saying, actually, I've looked at your Facebook and you're not really photogenic, is what I was told. And I sat there and I kind of consumed that statement, and I said, well, I put my stuff up on Facebook not to look good, but just to reflect what I'm going through at that particular time. So if my face is contorted or not quite set right in some kind of social media glamorous tone, it's not because I'm not faking it. That's me at the time taking the picture, and I'm sorry it's not, preempt and photoshopped and all of that. I don't aspire to all of that. I'm not from that era. I don't need to aspire to have gleaming white teeth, perfect boobs, perfect backside, perfect waistline, perfect hair. How you get me is how you get me, because at the end of the day, when you're with someone, they have to see through that. They have to wake up with you in the morning. And you don't look like that in the morning. You don't look like that photoshopped edit social media page that you've put up there that's flawless. You wake up in the morning with your matter in your eye and your breath not smelling too right, and you've got to brush your teeth and fix your hair and do all those kind of things. And that's what people learn to love about you, is all your imperfections as well as your perfections. And that's when I will love someone right back and give my heart and soul to, when they can appreciate what mine are and not aspire me to be this kind of prototype social media pin-up star perfection type thing. That's not me, and I don't want to be that. So I'm happy to be in my skin, knowing who I am, loving who I am, and loving whoever's with me for who they am as well. And that's the sanctity of myself, let alone whatever marriage is. Ladies.
And absolutely, because you believe that is the message that it is that you're then sending on. Absolutely the right message, because it is, you've got to be right inside yourself. The whole thing about a marriage, before you can even get to the point of considering the marriage, you got to be right inside yourself. You got to know what it is that you're about. Yeah. And yeah, you just got to know what you're about before it is that you go along and do it. You must know your reasons for wanting to go into it.
Yeah, and that still is difficult. Like I said, if you've come out of a long marriage or been or surrounded or been brought up with the fact that you need to look after a man, how do you cope outside of that when that all breaks down? And we're looking at these perfect pieces, and that's wonderful. But we've all been broken in some respect, right? In some respects, all of us have been broken. We've all experience some kind of loss or fail or heartbreak. Yeah. And is it more than what the normal person would tolerate, or is it what we can only tolerate? That's what I'm trying to put it in. I'm looking at my guest and his wife, and I'm sitting there thinking, boy, in 33 years you must have gone through something. It can't be perfect.
But it's not. Marriage is not perfect.
We know.
But marriage can't be perfect because we're not perfect.
We're not, exactly.
So right? Are we achievers or are we failures? That's what I'm looking at. Because they can work through problems. So therefore, as we seen as achievers of, I've achieved much more because I've walked out the marriage and I didn't have to deal with this. Or are we failures because we didn't try and fight through it? And I realise there's mitigating facts, because there's abuse and all sorts of things. I know. I'm going there.
That's an easy question, baby girl, but that's got so many components in it.
I know. And that's why I want to hear it from everybody. Seriously, we've got like 20 minutes.
Okay, so for me, I am greater now than I was when I was married, because I had to navigate through the challenges of learning to be a single parent while going to school, trying to get a degree while working. I am greater now today than I was when I was married. And I can say that unequivocally. And I know I am, because my ex-husband looks at me in awe and tells me how awesome I am, and how
I love that.
And how that is his deepest regret.
Yeah. Because actually what I'm looking at you and saying is, Caroline, could you imagine how far you could have got, how much further you could have got if actually you were in that solid, relationship with the two of you both working to grow and develop and so forth. But just imagine if the relationship became like that. I don't know. It's
I don't know,
possible.
because I think that situation shaped me to push me to be
Okay.
greater,
Okay.
rather than having the husband who then made it comfortable for me to go back to school. I went back to school while I was married, and the second year I was not married, to the point of growth, people growing, and one partner is growing and another partner isn't. But I would say that that situation pushed me to be who I
Shaped you.
am today. And I
Yeah.
would not have been the same person then. I don't know who I would have been, but this Carolyn, this present person now, in the failure comes greatness no matter what.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I,
It's like the
I
phoenix. Is it the phoenix that rises from the fire?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I agree with what you've just said, miscellaneous, because, in I look back and I know that if I had stayed in that situation, I probably might not even be here today.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was it was a choice that I had to make pretty sharpish, because my daughter was 1 when we left, and I knew that I couldn't let her see things the way they were in that environment. So and after I left my marriage was when I went back and took a second degree and did what I had to do. I did what I had to do, and I did it on my lonesome. I didn't get any help from anybody, and I did it. And I know I don't feel like, I used to feel like a failure because my marriage didn't work out, but actually I don't feel like that anymore. I feel great, actually. I feel great. I feel like at least I've done something good. I've raised a child on my own, and she's doing great things herself. And I've got a career to speak of. I've got a career spanning almost 30 years. So, and I'm happy in myself. When I decided to leave the 27-year relationship, it wasn't because I was not angry with him or anything like that, but I just felt that I didn't feel the reciprocal kindness. I didn't feel that reciprocation of what I was putting into it. And I had tolerated that for many years, and I decided to not tolerate it any longer.
And you know what? We have that choice. And, I haven't revealed too much about my background. And I've come from a background of domestic violence, some severe domestic violence. And we'll go into that subject at some other point. And I think most of us ladies have actually been through that in our lives. And the ones that haven't, thank the Lord you haven't. But, my mum taught me about subservience and looking after a man. And I thought that's what came with it. I thought that was a part of life. I thought that's what people went through. And as soon as I learned it was different, I let it go. And it took a long time. And it makes you into stronger people. And sometimes that strength takes over and destroys relationships that you have subsequently, because you take that burden of what you've experienced, especially the ones straight after that. But with age comes experience, comes wisdom, as you say, and you realize that not everybody's the same, not every man is the same, but you have to make good choices. You can't blame every man doing what they need to do because it's just a man. You need to make the choices of what's good for you, what works for your soul, and what you both want to experience. And you do that through communication. And Keith said that very poignantly. Communication is the key.
Right.
And we need to learn from that. We need to speak to our men, and our men need to speak to us. We need to communicate. It's not a one-way thing anymore. It's not, baby, I need you to cook and make sure my food's on the table. It's like, what's bugging you today, hun? What's up? We're going through menopause, and how many of us talk to our husbands about menopause or boyfriends? You know, when you meet a prospective man, oh, I'm menopausal. It's not very attractive, is it? So we have to put that behind us and act like women and feel like we've got super on our back. We're porn stars in the bedroom. We're great cooks in the kitchen, and we're great
I don't know. I don't do
householders.
that. Bless you. Bless you. If I met a man now, I'll be telling him straight. This is, I'm in my maturity. Yeah. Well, what else you gonna expect? And if he didn't understand what I mean by my maturity, then I'm gonna start to, I want to meet his sister or his mother or so forth. So, I'm gonna be, because the conversation needs to be had. What do
I'm
you mean?
gonna use that line. I'm in my maturity. What are you gonna spit?
Listen,
That's
if you
brilliant.
were
That's brilliant.
educated in the UK, right? You went to school and they taught you about the life cycles, yeah? Listen to me. This is a thing. It's a real thing.
I have to laugh. But you know what? Miscellaneous, I'm going to agree and disagree at the same time because,
Yeah.
we have to be women and we still have to be sexy and attractive at the same time. I'm not saying we have to wear short skirts and prance around like we'll do this, that, and the other. But we still need an element of, I don't know, like we're not going to kill the next man that does something wrong. Because I think we're making the next man pay for what the last man did sometimes. And we just need to get over that so slightly
Absolutely.
No.
and
Yeah,
move on.
100% agree with that.
Hold on, I had some no's here. Who said no?
I disagree. Not every. I mean, some women probably do that, but not everybody does that, because we know enough to know that men are individuals, and just because the last man beat you doesn't mean the next man is going to beat you. Again,
Absolutely,
it's all down. Yeah. So not everybody does that, but some do and some don't.
Yeah.
I certainly haven't done.
Yeah, and I wanted to jump in and say, I was a counselor at a battered women's shelter for many, many years,
Ooh.
and I saw many women come in there running from partners, whether they were husbands or boyfriends in relationships, and one of the things that always that hit me was particularly in these abusive relationships, that statistically that a woman's beaten 35 times before she decides that she's going to leave.
That's probably about true. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
and it's that 36 punch in the face, whatever, that you realize that, hey, I'm going to make a choice here to change something in my life. And one of my roles as a counselor was when the woman said she was going back, my job was not to tell her not to go back.
Mm.
Support her.
My job was just to empower her and
Mm-hmm.
support her and to give her the resources and tools that she required should she make the decision to leave again.
Again. Yeah.
Because the decision really does have to be hers. It can't be somebody else's. And yeah. So, uh, yeah, it has to be her decision to be able to leave. And even the putting up with the 35 times, that's about programming, isn't it? That's about her self-esteem
Theme,
and how she feels about herself. There's so many things
psychological
that feed
abuse.
into.
Yeah, you're no good. You have no value. Nobody's going to want you again.
And
Uh,
those are
that
called,
messaging,
yep.
isolated from support. And so it is a very it's an act of bravery for a woman to decide to leave that situation. Economic support, she doesn't work, she depends on the partner for all of the monies in the household. All of those things become tied in. But again, when you look back on, I was walking downtown. I worked downtown, and this woman came up to me, and I had no idea who she was. And she was actually a woman who I had counseled when I was at the battered women's shelter, and she told me how great her life was with her two daughters who were both in colleges, universities, and to see the story, right? Because there is triumph out of the pain if you choose that.
And there certainly is, ladies. And before we even carry on, we've got 10 minutes before the end of the show. Do you believe that? Can you believe that time has moved so quickly that we've got the last 10 minutes? So I'm going to try and round up the conversations here now. We're going to have some last speakers here, and we've got 5 more minutes before I wrap it up. And then we'll go towards the end of the show. Good afternoon or good evening to Empress Lee, and to also Legilos Claire T, who's on here also. Thank you very much for tuning in. Sorry, Miscellaneous, what was you about to say?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask that, following on all of our discussions, and we've heard some really good things about marriages, but our own personal experiences haven't necessarily been positive ones. Yeah. So I was just going to ask everybody, was like, so after this, how do you feel about marriage? Is it something that you still think is a good thing? It's a right thing, something that you would encourage future generations to do, or you're not fussed either way?
If I may comment for a second, I went through life with different feelings about marriage. My parents were married obviously from young and from a very long time, and when I had my son and I had a relationship that was abusive, I didn't look at marriage as though something I wanted to get into. And then I thought about my parents' marriage, and don't get me wrong, they had a great marriage for the majority of it. But I saw when my mum was in despair, and reading books and understanding what black women went through in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s in terms of being married and things that they had to do in order to achieve and go forward and to be with a man. That was hard. And even some of the values that my mother taught me, I agreed with them and I disagreed with them, because I was just like, well, why do you need to do that? What are they doing for me? All I thought was why am I doing this for someone? What are they doing for me? And never did I see the counteraction of that, as in, what are they doing for me if I'm doing this for them? And so that was my issue growing up, with the way that my mum taught me to be. Okay, so I'll bring his dinner on a tray. Who's going to bring mine? And where's that coming? And do I just do this every day? Really? You know, so I questioned everything. And even now in relationships, even when you speak to men or relationships that you're in, and they're like, you know, my girlfriend did this, that, and the other. And now I don't feel bad. I'm tired of feeling bad about people's perceived inadequacies. You know, there are things I can't do, and there are things I can do very well. But I'm not going to focus on the things that I can't do. And my upbringing wasn't, my sole life on earth isn't to look after you as a man and make sure that you're prepared for the world, and neglecting myself. Because that's changed a little bit. I need to look after myself and look after my man, and my man needs to look after me. And that's the world where I'm coming from now. And if I can, if someone is on that same page with me, then that's great. If they're not, then we're going to have a little bit of an indifference, because it needs to be about both, not one. And that's my last words on this. We've got 6 minutes, ladies, before we end with one track. I'm going to wrap this up because it's been so interesting, and I'm sorry I talked too much.
So I'm just going to say very quickly that in answer to your question, yes, I mean, I don't have to be married, but I have no qualms. You know, I still think that there is value in being married. I mean, I'll take a partner any day as well. You know, if we want to partner up, great. If we want to get married, great. It's either or for me. I still think there's a lot of value in it.
Thank you. Toronto, Caroline, before we wrap up very quickly, we're wrapping up.
Yes to a life partner. if marriage happens, my mom's been married twice, my dad's been married twice, my sister's been married twice, I've been married once. I still have one flag out there for this marriage thing. But depending which day you catch me, yes to a life partner. If we're jiving, possibly marriage, but we'll see.
Thank you very much, Toronto Caroline. Miscellaneous, very quickly, because we are running out of time. So sorry.
Well, yes, I think that marriage is a great institution. As I said earlier, it's something that I would encourage. And just like Toronto Caroline, I'm happy with a life partner too. If marriage happens, then that's a great bonus for me at this age. Yeah. But in terms of future generations, absolutely, I would like to encourage it.
And I think so too. We need to encourage so much more. And thank you, ladies. Honestly, this has been a fabulous chat this evening. We've had so much going on, and big up to DJ Smiley that came in on the chat and spoke about the some of the sanctity of marriage and the longevity of marriage. That's a tough call. That's such a tough call for all of us. But you're proving to let us know that it can happen, and you know, the longevity of marriage is there, definitely. And this track is We Play by Sizzler. Before I end it out on another track, sorry, I was digressing there.
So many years I haven't seen my people. Africa is calling.
So I just want to say thanks to the guests that we've had on, and also the panel that we've had on board, which is Lady Toronto. I love that. You know, that's what I'm going to use going forward. And also Lady B, fellow GYRadio DJ, and Miscellaneous. Thank you. And Claire T, I've seen your comments on there. You said you've never been married, but now in my mid-50s, I'm with a wonderful relationship, which I aspire to get married. Now, it's Jamaican independence. I'm going to end this off with Jamaica, with Ja Cure. Thank you all so very much. We're going to go into the news shortly. It's Ladies' Day on GYRadio.
Looking for a place to have a perfect vacation.
And ladies, mute your mics.
Another place for the perfect reservation. Let me take you there soon, yeah. To a place called Jamaica, the island in the sun. Place called Jamaica, everyone having fun.
So Toronto Caroline, say bye-bye to everybody. Say see you next month.
See you next month.
The food is great, the people is great, a wonderful place, climate is great. Down here in Jamaica. If you wanna.
And you, Miscellaneous, say goodbye and say I'll see you next month.
See you all next month. Take good care.
And you, Lady B, say I'll see you next week.
Yes, I will see you next week. Have a good one.
And I will see you guys all next month. Thank you for joining in to the Sanctity of Marriage. Thank you, Leggy Laws. I hope you found it very interesting, as well as Claire T. Remix AK. I will see you guys very soon on GYRadio. Thank you for tuning in to the Sanctity of Marriage.
No place like Jamaica to me. No matter where